So Bitcoin has fallen by 3.88% over the last 24 hours. Since we reached that high of 43,787 on our trend line on the upper side, we have now moved back down lower than the 200 EMA, that's the white line, lower than the 50 EMA, that's the red line, and lower than the 50 SMA, that being the yellow line, down towards our target range here of 41,688 to 42,113. This is the area that we were kind of consolidating in before, where we saw a reasonable amount of buying pressure, and also where we have our current swing low at 41,637. In today's video, guys, we're going to be jumping down into the technical analysis on Bitcoin on the 1 hour, 1 day, and 1 week's timeframes, sharing my thoughts and opinions on where I think things are going. As I get into the video, smash that like button if you're new, subscribe. Don't forget to join us down in Discord, links in the description below. Let's jump right down into it. Okay, guys, so here on the 1 hour time frame, we have Bitcoin paired up with USDT, and Binance is our data source. So as I said, right, we were testing this upper trend line at the 43,787. We've moved down back into our target range, as I said, 41,688 to 42,113. And obviously our swing low currently sat at $41,637. Now, momentum wise, we can still see further downside here. Okay, we can see this interesting structural point moving down lower than those EMAs. Right now, I think we haven't really got the momentum to push up terribly too much. It's possible, though, that a rally is coming here. Okay, so we can find ourselves in the lower highs, lower lows situation, looking for a break to the upside. I am expecting a break to the upside from this lower range, probably a breakout of this this trend line as well, heading more out towards 44,398. Now, as we kind of consolidate down on this low range, I do think we have one more attempt back in here. I said this a few days ago, and it's good to see that we finally got back down there, but I'm expecting us to come back in here still. I don't think we're done just yet. So I'm looking for a little bit deeper here. I'm not looking for the low of 41,637 to get broken. But once we kind of tap into this range and we get a good kind of area to go long, I would expect us to kind of see some progression to the upside on BTC. Okay, obviously this is all short-term corrections, but what I'm looking for here is a break out of this trend line to break the pattern of the lower highs, so we can have a higher high getting set here. We currently haven't got this, as we have got a swing high over this side as well, which is still sat higher than the most recent swing high, as you can see here, 43,802, and we got close with this test on that trend line at 43,787. So although it's it was very close, we couldn't get a new higher high. So what we're looking for here is a higher high to break out of this trend line, and then once that kind of happens, we reset and we move back down, because I am then looking for us to have a bigger corrective move to the downside. Just don't think it's quite ready yet. So we are looking, in my opinion, for a move basically somewhere realistically in this range between 41,688 to 42,113. If we do lose that low at 41,637, we kind of have to consider that we are not likely to pierce up higher than the 43,787, and instead it's just a new lower low, and we're going to continue this for a bit longer before we have that breakout situation. Now, from our stochastic RSIs, you can see here that it is moving back down towards the oversold area. And we've had a pretty decent correction during this moment. So yeah, it's not looking like there's a lot of momentum to support the price action from falling at the moment. So we'll keep a close eye on it. But momentum wise, we are looking for a shift back to the upside. Okay, so we will find some buying pressure. You can also see that we have a couple of hidden bullish divergence and bullish divergence here on our divergence indicator. Now, if I bring back our charts, you can kind of see that we had this bullish divergence right here. Okay, we got this move upwards. It's only a mini minor because we are talking about the day hourly chart here, right? But we did see a 1.69%. Now, with this divergence, I would expect us still to see a higher push to the upside. But before we do that, I'm still looking for a bit more of a move to the downside first. Okay, could be wrong on that. Maybe we've already kind of finished this, but for the most part, I'm still thinking one more test of this low range and then a rally on up from here. Okay, so looking good. We've got the divergence. It's kind of showing up on our charts. We're going to be getting ready for a bigger breakout situation for Bitcoin. Nothing too major, but a significant move than what we have seen previously with this area of consolidation. So on this 1 hour chart, looking pretty good from that point of view. Volume profiles are actually quite high for the selling side. As you can kind of see here, that it's not got a lot of buying volume as price pushed up, but as price was coming down, volumes were actually quite steadily higher than they were on the way to the upside. Specifically, this initial surge where volumes were significantly lower. Now, obviously, if we zoom out, you can really see that volumes are low in comparison. So again, it's not anything major going on there, but it's well worth noting that the volume profiles will affect your stochastic RSIs and your RSIs, as they are showing you the strength of the movement, and volume is going to be a part of whether you have a strong move or a weak move. So on that note, that's looking okay. On the 4 hour time frame, you can see that we still have some progression to the downside. Hence, I still think we're going to be tapping down into those slightly lower ranges before we rally on up. Otherwise, on our 4 hour time frame here, we're seeing hidden bearish divergence, but we already saw that move and rejection there, so again, that's okay. Otherwise, there isn't much more to note on the 4 hour time frame here, other than we are still looking for some form of progression still to the downside to kind of finish off our pattern. Now, if we take this up into our daily time frame is still showing us with higher highs and higher lows. This will have a tendency to want to break on down, so we are still looking for another move up here, which will probably actually be setting ourselves up with the potential for another higher high. I don't think it's a guarantee though. And let me show you, I'm not sure if that's the right one. Is that a regression? I want parallel. So if I show you this right here, you can kind of see that we have this higher high, higher low situation. Now, it's possible that we have this breakup above 44,700. I wouldn't hope that was the case, but for the most part, it's a possibility. And if we do see that, then we are likely to see another higher high here, which will ultimately lead us down. I think, though, if we can hold 44,700, what we'll actually find is on the smaller time frames, we'll get into a bearish position again, and we'll see another move to the downside. So, for example, you can see here, we'll probably test this higher range once again, where there's a lot of selling pressure. That range coming in right here at the 43,847 to 44,651, and then from there we'll look for a bigger move to the downside, where we are testing out some of those other lows that I've been talking about for the last few days. Specifically, the first test is going to be that $39,600 to $40,000 level. And if we cannot keep that, then we lose it. Then, of course, we are going to be talking 35,735 to 37,650. That's going to be an interesting zone. It's a fair value gap. And then under there, we have my main zone at $30,000 to $32,000, right? So on this daily time frame, it's very, very interesting. Now, if I remove the stochastics off of here and throw in our divergences, you can see that there's no new divergences being mapped out here over the last few days. We obviously saw these hidden bullish divergences, and we did see our moves to the upside, but we haven't seen any new divergences here on the daily divergence indicator in the RSI and price movement wise. So that's looking okay. Volume profiles obviously are non-existent. We've been through that many, many times. And as we have had these higher highs and higher lows on our daily time frame, volumes have been decreasing. Okay, so although higher highs and higher lows, volume decreasing shows us that this is not a sustainable model, and we are likely to see a reversal in the market, and we are likely to see moves to the downside. Roll this up into a weekly time frame. We have the more bearish pattern, which are higher highs and higher lows, and this one is, of course, looking for a major break to the downside, in my opinion. Now, I know a lot of other analysts now are finally coming on board with what I've been saying. Essentially, nothing moves up forever, and where we are is a really dangerous position for Bitcoin. I went through this a couple of times already this week, and potentially even last week and the week before that. Ultimately, we are looking at pretty healthy corrections here for Bitcoin. In the history, and I'll probably actually roll this up into a monthly to just show you this. Our monthly stochastic RSI, we saw a correction here of 55% to get us down a little bit. Now, from our overbought area right now, if we were to see a 55% correction, we are going to be seeing a lot more significant price correction than people are probably going to want to hear or acknowledge. That puts us all the way back down in this lower range down here at less than $20,000. Now, $20,000 is going to be screaming to retail investors, you're just off your meds. You're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. How on earth could Bitcoin possibly do that? And well, we've seen it do it many, many times before. Not 20,000 specifically, but 55% corrections. These are not uncommon. And if you're not prepared to acknowledge that this is a possibility, then I don't think this space is one for you. So as we kind of think about this, we can see, a 18 to 20% correction gets you down to 36K. A 30% correction gets you down, or 32% correction gets you down to 30K. A 44% correction gets you down to 24K. And a 56% correction gets you down to 19.5K. Now, why are these numbers of interest? Well, if I zoom out just a fraction here, we can see that every time we've been up in these overbought ranges on the stochastic RSI, we've seen a pretty decent correction for Bitcoin. Let's take a look at the previous time. Right up here, we saw a correction of 18%. Actually, no, it's a little bit more. It's 20% from our overbought to oversold range was a 20% correction, right? And if we apply that 20% correction from the high that we have at the moment, when we are talking about price moving down to 35,000, that's the first area of interest for me. Okay, so that's the first thing to kind of consider. We might bounce from there. That's fine. Okay, and the time before this, we also saw a correction here. And this one was 27%, okay? The time before that, we saw this really large correction right here of 63%, okay? And the time before that, we saw a correction down here of 52%, okay? So I just want to kind of put this out there, guys, that nothing is impossible. And a correction, no matter what size it is going to present itself with huge opportunity as long as you choose to acknowledge that it is an opportunity. Okay, with a correction of 20, 30, 40%, we're going to see Bitcoin and the altcoins really have a nice healthy correction that is going to create huge buying opportunities for the larger, wealthier institutional investors alongside the more savvy, smarter retail investor. The ones who are going to get unfortunately hurt, the ones that are going to succumb to selling pressure, are the ones who are not willing to acknowledge what is right in front of them. A nice healthy correction for Bitcoin is coming. Now, you can let me know what your thoughts are on all of this in the comments down below. I'm going to leave the video right there. Why don't you check this video out if you want to know the top 10 banks that are crypto friendly.